We actually had told our investors and our team that we're going to shut down the company in January. Like we tried, we pivoted, but we're going to shut down because we're not making enough money to sustain the business. In October, we continued to try. We were like, we're going to try until the last drop. Like we think we're going to have to shut down in January, so prepare yourself for that. But like we're still going to try everything we can because we have, a couple months left. And so in October, we had a video that just like went viral.
Welcome to the Hot Start VC podcast, the show where we break down how celebrities and creators build billion-dollar brands. In today's episode, I'm joined by Natalie Barbu, a creator who has been posting online for over a decade and has grown an audience of over 400,000 followers across social media. Natalie has always viewed her platform as a launching pad for entrepreneurship, experimenting with different business models before launching Rella, a content management platform designed for social media collaboration. We will talk about what inspired her to launch Rella, what it's like to raise $1 million from well-known VCs as a creator founder, and how she navigated multiple pivots to eventually reach $2 million in ARR. We will also dive into what it really means to be a creator founder and discuss the growing ecosystem of celebrity and creator founded companies. So without further ado, let's get into the conversation. Natalie, you're one of the few content creators who has actually co-founded a tech company, and I'm personally very bullish on that. So I'm super excited for you to be here. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm very excited.
Perfect. So before we talk about Rella, I actually want to go back to the first days of you being a content creator, and you have been a content creator for more than a decade. So can you tell me more about those early days and when you actually decided to start creating content, and what type of content was it?
Yeah, so I started on YouTube in 2011, which is really long time ago. It was actually even before I had an Instagram. So if that shows you how long ago it was. But I was in high school at the time, and I remember it was in the summer. So I was very bored one day. I wasn't doing anything. It was a rainy day. And I remember watching other YouTube creators at the time. It was like the beauty guru days. So it was girls around my age, around 15, doing their makeup in their bedrooms and like showing, a makeup tutorial. And I remember thinking, well, that looks like so much fun. And I feel like those girls are my age. I feel like I could do something like this. I filmed it that day. Like I watched a couple YouTube videos and was like, oh, I can do that. And I filmed it on my laptop at the time and then edited it on iMovie. So it was done on Photo Booth, edited it on iMovie, and I uploaded the video that day. I remember thinking this is fun, but like, I wonder what's going to come out of it. I didn't think it could be a job or anything like that. I saw a few comments and people subscribing. I was like, whoa, what is this? Because again, this is before Instagram. So the only social media at the time that I was familiar with was Facebook, where you friend requested your friends, like people that you knew in real life. It wasn't random strangers on the internet that you wanted to follow. So this was my first experience with actually having followers of any that don't know me in real life. And I thought it was so cool. I was like, wow, this is so cool. They're commenting, they're subscribing. And I didn't have a lot of subscribers. I remember I did a giveaway when I hit 100 subscribers, and I was like, this is the best day of my life. This is so cool. So it was very new, but the internet at that time was very new. Like social media was in its baby days. So I had no plans of it becoming a career or anything like that. I was just bored and decided to film a video and was having fun with it.
Are those videos still online, or like were you so ashamed that you were like, no, I have to delete this a couple years later?
No, they're still up. I have archived like some old videos because I was uploading a lot at that time. Like I was like uploading a new video every day. So I was like, okay, some of them can be archived, but I have kept the first one up. So my very first video is still up, and you can still watch videos of me in 2011 filming my makeup tutorials.
Yeah, you're kind of growing up online. And can you tell me more about the kind of how that content evolved from the first beauty tutorials to where you actually saw the most success?
Yeah, I was doing makeup tutorials when I first started because that's all I was watching. So that was really what was the only, thing girls my age were doing. And it evolved, like when I went to college, I remember posting more lifestyle content. So just behind the scenes of, me as a college student, but I started posting content about me being an engineering student. So I was studying engineering in school, and I realized like there were no girls posting on the internet doing engineering, see their experience. I wanted to see if their experience was similar to mine. And whenever I would look it up, it was always guys. Like it was always content from male creators. And I was like, well, I know that there's girls doing engineering, even if it's not, that popular. We're out there and there's not content for us. So I actually started posting a lot of engineering content, but vlogs. So what my life looks like as an engineering student, what I do in a day, in a week, whatever. And I started posting behind the scenes content of that. And those videos did really well. And I started doing Q&As about what it's like to balance engineering and YouTube and what I want to do, when I graduate college and how I'm preparing for using my degree and all of that stuff. So I started posting a lot of content about that, and that started doing really well. So I would say that was my first, not viral moment, because I've never had like a viral moment. It's been very slow and steady throughout my career. But that was my first like big jump, where I remember gaining like 20,000 subscribers in 1 month, and I was like, whoa, like that's the biggest jump that I've ever had, So that was, I would say, when I started transitioning more to lifestyle content. And then once I graduated college, I got a job at Accenture, so a consulting company. I started posting more about that because I was like, there's also not a lot of corporate content. Like, a lot of people that work in corporate aren't creators. And so I started posting a lot about that. And then when I quit my job was when I was really worried, like, oh no, what type of content am I going to post now? But I always knew I wanted to start my own business. So I had started an agency at that time. And then I started Rella. So my content has evolved with my life, and it's been great to be able to really show the behind the scenes of whether it's engineering, whether it's working a corporate job, whether it's starting your own business. I've always wanted to be, a resource for especially women, showing that, you can do it. Like, you can work in engineering, you can work in tech, you can start your own business. And so that's kind of how my content has evolved throughout the years.
Yeah, I think that's super interesting because you have such a unique perspective, because definitely most of the nowadays full-time content creators, they have not studied in general, or they have not worked a corporate job before. So can you tell me more about, like, once you were done studying and you actually started working for Accenture, did you already start to think about, hey, if this takes off, I can potentially even do this full time? And how many months or years within actually your corporate job did you exactly decide to make this a full-time job?
I definitely started hoping that I could do it full time once I started my corporate job, because I realized corporate life was not for me. I've always wanted to own my own business one day, and I've always wanted to work for myself. So it was only, for me, it was like, what can I do to get out of this? And when I started at Accenture, I was making, I think when I graduated college, I was making around $30,000 a year on social media. So it was, with YouTube, I was making about $30K. So not enough for me personally to quit my job and do it full time. By the time I decided to quit at Accenture, I was saving all my Accenture paychecks. So I was like, I'm going to try not to use this money and put this away in savings and just live off of my social media to see if I could, like, how I can get by. And by the time I graduated, I was making double my salary at Accenture on social media. So it did grow pretty quickly that 1 year in terms of revenue. And so that's 9 months later, I quit my job. So by the time I started to quit, I started with 30,000. And then by the time I quit my job, I think I was making like 120,000, 30,000 on social media alone. And so I decided to quit my job and just do that full time. And then I always knew I would use social media to start a business one day. So I had started an agency pretty shortly after. And then I always wanted social media to be that stepping stone for whatever business I started.
So, like, if you look at the most successful founders, not even like creator founders, but founders in general, they've always experimented with different businesses. And most of them have failed before they actually found their success. I think what's very interesting about you is that you have always said is that you saw your platform as kind of a launch pad to eventually launch your own business. And as you mentioned, you had your own fashion label a couple years ago, you had your own marketing agency. So what inspired that mindset? And can you talk a little bit about those initial businesses that you launched?
Yeah, I've always been, like I said, very entrepreneurial. Like, even when I was in high school and I started my YouTube channel, I didn't know it then, but that was, pretty entrepreneurial in hindsight, looking back. And then I remember getting this audience, which, again, like, I had a giveaway with 100 subscribers. I wasn't like that big, but I remember thinking, oh, this is an audience that is following me. Let me see if I can, like, do something with this. So I started a personal styling business, which I put that in quotes because it was not a real business, but I would get $20, like, people would pay me $20 and a budget. And then I would, with their budget, I would, like, buy an outfit for an occasion for them. So if they wanted a back to school outfit or whatever it was, I would then use their budget to be their personal shopper. And then they would pay me $20 for the service. So I've always been someone that's thought about, like, how can I make money off of a skill that I have? And so that was like very early days. But then I did start an online store. So I had a wholesale, or I bought from wholesale, and I was selling women's clothing. I started an agency where I helped hundreds of one-on-one creators with their personal brands and like how to monetize it. And as well as I was like a social media manager for other companies. So I've always wanted to do something on my own. And I think the reason for that is I've always just wanted to have like full freedom of like my time, my schedule, and I have so many ideas that I'm like, okay, how can I implement these ideas? And I think having your own business is the best way to implement all of these ideas that you have in your head. So yeah, I've always kind of looked at the world with like, what problems are out there? What skills do I have that can solve it? And then how can I, get customers or get clients or whatever that might look like? So yeah, I've kind of always wanted to do something like that.
Yeah, and do you think that every content creator should kind of approach it like that and should actually focus on launching their own company instead of doing like brand deals and AdSense?
Yeah, I don't think that every creator necessarily needs to have a company if that's really not their end goal or not something that they want. But I do think that if you are a creator, you have a very unique skill set of being able to sell because, you're doing brand deals, you have an audience, and you probably have developed a lot of skills along the way. You've negotiated contracts, you've negotiated brand deals, you've been able to grow a community. So there's so many skills and things that you pick up on as a creator that maybe you didn't realize or you didn't think were entrepreneurial qualities, but they are. So I think if the opportunity presents itself, if you've never thought about it, lean into it and go for it because you have such a big advantage having a built-in community already. But I don't think it's something that you necessarily need to do if it's not something you're interested in, because growing a business and being a content creator, although the skill sets overlap, they are very different. I mean, building a business is by far much harder than being a content creator, in my opinion. So if that's not something you're interested in, then maybe it's not a good fit, but then at least use your skills to like consult with other businesses. You can be a consultant for these businesses that need help with growing their social media because you clearly have a skill set in that. So I always think you have so many skills as a content creator that maybe you aren't even aware of that you can use for more than just posting on social media.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm a venture capitalist and we exclusively invest in brands founded by celebrities and creators. So you would assume that I always recommend every single celebrity creator to launch their own company. But I always say is that 98% of the celebrities and creators should not launch their own company just because of some of the reasons that you mentioned. Like being a creator and being an entrepreneur is something completely different. And if you focus too much on being an entrepreneur, you actually lose your competitive advantage that you actually gave you the reason to exist in the first place. Then it also talks about most of these celebrities and creators, they're not solving a problem. It's just another like liquor brand, tequila brand, like apparel company. It's like 0 to none innovation. And if you're not solving a problem, it's very hard to exist. Do you think that you have been able to successfully launch your own company because you have always seen yourself as an entrepreneur first and a creator second? Whereas I think most creators nowadays, they have always seen themselves as a creator. They have built their audience and they now can get of this FOMO experience where they see all their peers launching their own companies or their management pushing to launch a company. So do you think that has an impact on you on why you are different than these other creators?
Definitely. I do think that I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I've always wanted to own my own business. I've always tried tinkering with like things that I could start. So I think that has definitely helped and been an advantage. And I always viewed social media as a stepping stone. So even when I wasn't making money off of it, even when I wasn't doing brand deals, I saw the influence that having even a small amount of followers could have. And I knew that could turn into something bigger than just posting on social media. So I think that sets me apart, where I have wanted to be very entrepreneurial and I viewed myself in that lens. And I agree with you where like a lot of creators are approached with business ideas because they have a big following. And so there'll be a lot of like investors or managers or agents will put a bunch of ideas in front of them, or even like books. Like every creator is now like writing a book, and it's like, should you be writing a book at this stage in your life? So I think it's important because a lot of these businesses that are put in front of you might have huge numbers that they'll throw, like, oh, you can make this much money if you own this much of the company and blah, blah, blah. But they don't understand that this isn't like a brand deal where you just have to post a couple times on social and like promote it and that's it. People are inundated with ads now that like you just posting a couple of things online is not going to move the needle. Like you have to be so invested into your business, take on that entrepreneurship role very seriously. And it's not going to be as easy as, posting a couple times a week and that's it, or a couple times a month or a quarter or whatever. You have to really be fully in it for it to actually make a difference. So eventually the business needs to be bigger than you. You know, the business needs to be, most of your followers are not going to be customers or users or whatever it is. So once you tap that market already, you have to now find new users that don't know about you. And that's really hard to do. So a lot of investors actually, because we had raised money as well, and a lot of investors had asked us like, oh, well, is Rella only your audience? Like, is it only people that come from your social media? And I'm so happy to say, no, it's not. I've already tapped into my audience, and I don't have a huge audience, you know? So it's like I've already tapped into them. Whoever's going to use us from my audience has pretty much already used us or is using us. We have thousands of users that don't even know who I am. You know, they think I'm like the social media manager because they like see my face on social media. So that's when you're going to build a successful business, when it can actually like live outside of you and people don't know that you're associated with it.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the best celebrity and creative founder brands are always supported by and not dependent on. So I think you're spot on. So yeah, let's talk about Rella for a second. So can you tell the audience, like, what is Rella and what is the founding story behind it?
Yeah, so Rella is a project management tool for social media teams. So think of Notion meets a content scheduler, but we're very specific to social media managers, agencies, in-house teams. And it came out of a problem that I had when I was running my agency, as well as being a full-time creator. So I had my agency where I was helping creators, but I was also working as a social media manager for brands. And I remember thinking, this does not need to be as complicated as it is. Like, I was using so many different tools. I was still using spreadsheets. The client approval process was horrible. Tracking on the creator side of things, tracking my brand deals and everything like that was horrible. And I just thought that there needed to be a better solution. So when we started Rella, we actually started with the creator in mind, which we've pivoted, we've relaunched. We have a whole like pivot story as well. But we started with the creator in mind. So it was a project management tool for creators to help manage brand deals, content, and all of those things and their goals. And when we launched that, it came out of my personal experience. We were working on a mobile app for it. We were in the app store. We had users, but we got to a point where it was kind of like at a standstill and it wasn't really growing. And so we ended up making the decision to pivot to social media teams, managers, agencies, and those businesses that have like a real need. And going back to even your original question of, did I start a business because I'm more entrepreneurial or just because I'm a creator? I made the mistake of thinking that all creators were entrepreneurial and like had systems and were organized and, you know, because that's how I am. And then when we launched this tool for creators, we realized, oh, creators might try it for like a week, but they're not good customers when it comes to tech, at least for what we were creating. And so we ended up, you know, realizing that the hard way where, oh, not all creators are, you know, have the systems that I do or have the organization that I do. They're fine with doing things very like scrappily and, you know, everything on their phone. So we ended up pivoting to businesses, and that's brought us a lot of success. But it also came from like my agency experience where I was like, I think this is actually the way to go, because when I was working on my agency, these were like still the pain points that I had. And I think other businesses are willing to pay for it, and other people that were in my, you know, similar situation are willing to pay for a solution like this because there's not a good solution out there. And so that really helped us grow the company.
Yeah, it's super interesting because, and this is a mistake that a lot of creators and entrepreneurs make in general. It's like they think that the problems that they have or the experiences that they have is that everyone has those experiences. So I think it's super interesting to listen to your story. So you launched the company in 2022. I think then you made a couple pivots. You eventually found like your product market fit and you relaunched the company. And then you quickly saw Rella grow from $0 to $1 million in ARR, I think in 11 months. I don't know what are the latest numbers and if you can even talk about it, but when did you realize that aha moment of, yes, I think we actually now have product market fit?
Yeah, so we were for creators and then we realized we're not growing, we need to pivot. And as saying it on a podcast, it sounds like, oh, such an easy decision. But like that was such a hard decision for us because it was that sunk cost fallacy of being like, we've worked on this for 2 years now. Like, do we really just throw it all away and restart? But the answer was like, if we don't, we're going to shut down the company. So we have to. So we ended up completely scratching the first product, thinking like, this is not going to work. We need to niche down on social media teams, businesses, and figure out, you know, like create an amazing product for them. So we shut down the first app, like it's not on the App Store or anything like that. We relaunched this desktop version. And in the beginning, like we had about 3 months of runway when we relaunched to have this work because we were not like, we were not making money. You know, it was like we had raised money, we had burned through that on our Rella 1.0, and we were like, okay, this is really the last chance that we have. And so we relaunched in August. August was already doing better than our first product ever did, which is saying something. So it was already doing a little bit better. And then September, slightly better, but again, like not enough to help us survive. So we actually had told our investors and our team that we're going to shut down the company in January. Like we tried, we pivoted, but we're going to shut down because we're not making enough money to sustain the business. In October, we continued to try. We were like, we're going to try until the last drop. Like, we think we're going to have to shut down in January, so prepare yourself for that. But like, we're still going to try everything we can because we have, a couple months left. And so in October, we had a video that just like went viral. Like, we were still posting on social media and everything like that. And when I say viral, it got like 200,000 views on Instagram and TikTok within a few weeks. So it wasn't like got millions of views or anything like that, but it really reached our target audience and it got a lot of views in that community. And we went from making, I believe it was like $3,500 a month, $3,500 to $5,000, I don't fully remember, to the next month making $21,000 because of that one video. And then the month after that, it was like $45,000. And then, so it was just like a hockey stick kind of with where we were. And we were like, oh, wow, we can actually keep the company afloat and like, let's keep doing this. And that video was just it was like a skit style video where I was presenting myself as like the social media manager and the social media client. And it was, the annoying social media client that doesn't know how to do anything versus like the social media that's frustrated with all of the tools that they're using that makes this process really annoying. And then come Rella as the solution, as like, oh wait, actually there's this new tool that does this. And it was a really quick video. I really had no expectations that it was going to do well because we've been posting on social media for so long and like nothing really took off. And that video went viral on Instagram and TikTok at the same time. And that's when we were like, whoa, what is this? So we continued to kind of recreate that same style video, but it instantly like engaged a community. Like people were like, oh my God, yes, like this is the solution, blah, blah, blah. And like we started treating our customers and people in our audience as like our feedback group and our beta testers. And we were like, okay, what else do you want to see? What else do you want? And we were implementing their feedback immediately. So we were like, okay, you want this feature? Like, this is going to make it easier. Let's fix this. This is a bug. Let's fix this. And we were just like pushing out updates every single day. And yeah, now we hit 1 million ARR in July. And this month we should hit 2 million ARR by the end of the month. So yeah, we've been growing really quickly, which has been great. And I think I contributed really to our community. Like people were really engaged from the jump. But we do a really good job at listening to them. Like we really listen to them. Like without them, we would not be growing.
Yeah, I love that. And let's go back to that fundraising situation. So initially you raised like $1 million for like the first initial version of Rella. Can you tell me more about what was the experience like for you as a creator founder having to raise capital? Did investors see it as a risk? Did they see it as a moat? Was it both?
I definitely think they saw it more as a benefit than a risk. The questions that were asked though was, okay, is it only going to be your community that joins this and then that's it? But I don't have, millions of followers where my business would not survive, or especially a VC-backed business would not survive if it was only my customers that I was targeting. So I think that put them at ease a little more, being like, no, I'm not trying to build like just a creator business. Like I want this to be a successful VC-backed tech company. And then I think the story really resonated. So I think venture capital, when you're raising VC, especially a pre-seed round, it is mainly about your story. Like you really have to have a good story in the sense of you have to be the perfect founder for the problem you're solving. And I had all the experience doing it. And it was a problem that I faced. It wasn't something that a manager or agent presented in front of me and was like, take your pick. Do you want to start a alcohol brand, a fashion line, like whatever, skincare company? It was something that I really resonated with. And I, sought out to fix this problem. Some other questions we got though were, am I going to still do content creation and run the company? Like, how would that work? I think that a lot of investors appreciated when I said, like, yes, I will still be doing content, but like my time is devoted to Rella. I spend even today like 95% of my time on Rella, but my social media is also a good top of funnel strategy for the companies. Of course, I'm going to still do social media, but in terms of how much time I'm spending on being an influencer versus being a founder, like I view them as slightly overlapping, but most of my time is spent on Rella, like building that business. So those were some questions I got, but overall, I think especially with the investors we have on our cap table, like they really appreciated the value that I brought with being a creator.
Yeah, and I love that. And I think what's very interesting is what you mentioned. Like, if you're a content creator, that gives you a unique ability to launch a company because it means that you're able to bring top of funnel. So you're able to put free eyeballs on your companies. And that is something that traditional brands have to pay millions of dollars for. The interesting process is that if you then start to launch your own company and you have to dedicate 95% towards that career and become a part-time content creator again, it means you have to take a step back. So what was that like for you, having to take a step back from content creation and also for your audience?
It's definitely took a hit. My views, my engagement, my content is definitely on the decline, I would say, because I can't put that much time into it. I've actually recently, though, started putting a bit more time into it, but it's entirely focused on, business and entrepreneurship content, which I also think will then help Rella as well, because it's driving people in versus just like a generic lifestyle creator that like a week in my life in Miami, like, okay, who cares? It's more now like business related content. So I kind of am restarting and taking a pivot with my content as well, which I'm not unfamiliar with in terms of content, but starting to focus more on just business content because it's definitely taken a hit. And I feel like it's taken a hit because I've been all over the place with, I'm like, I don't know what to post. Let me just post random content because I don't have time to think. And now I've started to dedicate a little bit more time to it, but also because I know it's going to help Rella as well. So I view it as an extension of like being a founder-led company versus having the two lives be very separate. But yeah, it will take a hit. Like if you're really focused on your business, it's going to be hard to maintain being like an influencer and having, a successful business. But now that I'm intertwining the two a little bit more than I was in the past, and I'm focusing pretty much exclusively on like entrepreneurship and business content, I think it's actually going to help Rella grow in the end.
Yeah, so let's talk about that for a second, because I went online and I went on Reddit to look did a little bit of research on you, and I found the following quote. I used to like our New York content, but now she's so boring, and pivoted into the shallow tech startup founder content. And as you mentioned, like by focusing full-time on your startup, you had to say no to like creating content full-time, also guaranteed income through brand deals, to AdSense, living a good life where you can travel with all the flexibility in the world, to now pursue an idea that initially didn't really work out. The sleepless night, the stress, the founder salary, having to invest your own capital. And then also like the output, right? Like followers and views, it works as dopamine. So if you then put out another video and you see that it's like a 10 out of 10, you're not very happy. So like, can you tell me more about also the personal toll that it took on you and the doubts that you potentially had in the company working towards potential bankruptcy, and you were like, oh man, maybe I should have actually stayed a full-time content creator potentially. Now in hindsight, obviously it's very easy, and I'm glad you didn't do it, but I assume that was definitely a thought.
Yeah, I mean, I do not go on Reddit, like that corner of the internet, I'm like, stay away from, so I don't know what they're saying about me on there. When it comes to, I've gotten that feedback before of like, oh, I used to like your old content more, and the thing is that I mean, my life has changed, so like my content's not going to be the same. And I actually want to provide more value. Like, and this is not saying anything bad about any influencers, because I post a lot of lifestyle content myself. But it got to a point where I was like, what value am I providing? I'm just like showing my life. Like, that's cool that people care. And I like to watch creators that, it's just kind of like their morning routines and everything like that. And I appreciate it. But I was like, the content I'm looking for is content that is going to help my career, my business. And I know that there are other people, especially women, that want that content as well. And it's not there, because if you're looking up day in the life of a tech startup founder, 90% of them are going to be men. And, it's just, you want to find someone that you can like relate to and also learn from. So I wanted to do that. Like, I was like, my life also, I mean, not to make my business my whole identity, but like your life kind of starts revolving around it when you are a founder. And so I want to post content about that, and I want to provide value to people, and I want to inspire people to start businesses, because I think that it's one of those things that if it doesn't get talked about, people just think it's like this scary thing that like is so impossible to do. And unless you come from money, unless you come from having a ton of connections, you working in that industry, then you can't do it. And that's just not true. I do think that if you have a desire to become an entrepreneur, you can be, and it's actually more attainable than maybe it's set out to look like. Yeah, I want to provide more value, truly. Like, I don't want my life to be the whole purpose of it, and like also I don't want to share every aspect of my life anymore. I want to focus more on, providing value to people and content that I'm I'm searching for and that I'm watching, and watching more entrepreneurial content. So that's why it makes sense that my content is geared that way.
Yeah, and I applaud you for that, because like I have a lot of content creator friends who have been doing this as well for 15 years, and they originally came out with a format that is very successful. But let's take a gaming content creator or whatsoever, someone that plays Minecraft, but now they're 15 years older, and they don't want to play the same game anymore. However, that is giving them like all their income, all their revenue stream, the whole business, and if they stop, they kind of have to reinvent themselves. I think what's really excited about you is that you have been able to reinvent yourself also as a content creator. Because the problem is, if you're just going to push out content that you not enjoy making, it's going to burn you out in the long term. And you're kind of reinventing yourself to find out what is the type of content style that I like to push out. And also just looking at content creators in general, like I think being an entrepreneur is made like very glamorous. But oftentimes it's not. Like I always refer to Jessica Alba when she co-founded the Honest Company. She was like in supply chain meetings and product development meetings, and she wasn't acting for like a couple years. So she had to become boring, and obviously it paid off because she made an IPO. But it's definitely something that you have to go through. So can you tell more about having to reinvent yourself as a content creator?
Yeah, I think right now, honestly, is the time when I'm reinventing myself the most, because I am making a conscious effort to post pretty much exclusively like business and entrepreneurship content and content that provides value, especially on YouTube. And like it sucks because like I have a video, that's going out and it has like less than 1,000 views right now, which is like not good. But I know that I always remind myself that like any pivot is going to have a slow start. Like not a pivot that you do for the most part is going to be embraced by the masses, because I'm also trying to attract a new audience. Like my existing audience for the past 15 years, most of them don't care about business content. They don't, even like that comment said, like I used to like her New York content, whatever. So it's like, unfortunately, I have to make the decision to say no to like the content that those people want to see and focus on creating content that I enjoy watching, that I want to kind of like move in this new direction. Hopefully you can stick along with me if you care. But if not, then, I'll find a new audience as well. And so but it is hard, like looking at the numbers. It's like, oh my God, that's so embarrassing. I have this many subscribers and like, I'm literally getting like no views. But I know that the content I'm creating will find its audience one day. And also the content I'm creating now is evergreen content, where like in 2 years or a year from now, if you're searching, how do I find customers? I hope my video shows up so it's still relevant, versus a vlog. If I posted a week in my life of, just living in Miami, that video only has a lifespan of like a month before no one's going to watch a vlog from a year ago. So at least I'm focusing on more like evergreen content. And so I think it'll pay off. And I'm experimenting. Like, of course, I'm like trying to experiment with more short form video content. And it's kind of like starting a new company. Like it's hard because I'm really going through like a big pivot with my content creation, but I think it's going to be beneficial down the line.
Yeah. I think whenever creators launch a new company, like as investors, like we are always looking for, does that creator talk to their specific target audience? So let's say you are a content creator that creates content about hair loss. Like for the last 2 years, you have been going through a hair loss journey, you experiment and you document the whole process. Then other people are going to tune in that experience that same problem. Now, if you then launch a hair loss product, that is actually going to do well. Mm-hmm. For you as Natalie Barbu, like your original audience is probably not the audience of Rella. And this is what I think is super interesting, what you have done with the Rella social accounts. So for the people that don't know, like you've started to create these comical skits where you talk about the tension between like social media clients and social media managers and kind of position Rella as the solution to those frustrations. And I was checking and that's been performing really well. You already mentioned like one of these videos went really viral and kind of saved the trajectory of your company. And it now has like tens of thousands of followers and millions of views. And those are exactly the type of target audience that fits with Rella because they resonate with the content. So while your followers across all your platform as Natalie, only like 3% of that fits the target audience of Rella. For your social accounts on Rella itself, probably it's the other way around. So it's like 97% is the exactly target demographics of Rella. So could you tell me more about that strategy and what inspired it?
Yeah, so with Rella, we always wanted content to feel not as like salesy as maybe some other tools that are out there. And we love when we get a comment because now we do like paid ads on social media as well, like with our organic content. So we don't create separate content for paid ads versus organic. Our organic content is funneled to paid ads because we find that content that that is like made for paid ads. It's like, try a free trial today and sign up to whatever. It's like, okay, skip, that's just an ad. But we've gotten so many comments that's like, oh my God, I didn't even know this was an ad. Like, you guys got me, whatever. But we love that because we want the content. We want you to stop in your tracks to be like, wait, I resonate with that. I resonate with that character. I resonate with that problem. I need to keep listening because I want to hear the solution for this. And so that is how we try to create content for Rella versus just being like, here's Rella, this is what it does. All of our videos are pretty product focused. Like, so it's not like we're creating content that has nothing to do with the product, but we want to approach it in a way that's like, do you have this problem? Keep watching if you do. And then like, here's the solution at the end. So it hooks people in with the problem versus with just the product up front, which I think a lot of companies still have the mindset of like, well, we have to show the product or else, no one's going to know who we are. And it's like, that's so not true. Like, people will know who you are. There are some skits that sometimes I'll like forget to say the name Rella. I just kind of like start showing the product and I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't say Rella. But I'm like, actually, that's fine because it's in our username. We want to know, they'll ask. It's in the caption, so it's worked for us to try to come at it from a more like influencer-y approach, I guess, than coming at it from a just like product perspective.
Yeah, and like the best marketing never feels like marketing. So I think you guys are spot on with that. And do you also have like any data around like what is the percentage of customers today that actually signs up through the organic content or paid content in general to Rella?
Yeah, I can't tell you off the top of my head, but it's around like 70-ish% that come from social media. So it's most of our content is social media and the rest is like referrals.
Crazy. Okay, interesting. So let's talk about the ecosystem of creators and celebrities launching companies in general. So as I mentioned, a lot of them are focused on CPG companies. So another liquor brand, personal care company, apparel company, beverage company, you name it. Why do you think that's the case? And why do you think you are one of the only creators that has like launched a tech company?
I think because starting a tech company, if you are not technical, is really hard to conceptualize and to get it off the ground. So I'm not saying that having a liquor company or anything else is like easy. I know everything comes with its own challenges, but I think just not being able to physically control it, like I'm not hands to keyboard writing lines of code, bringing the product to life, is a lot harder to like go from 0 to 1 than starting a physical brand, in my opinion. So for me, I had to go out and find co-founders to help me build this. They had to believe in the mission. They had to believe in what I was building. I had to like them just as people, if I'm like gonna bring them into my company. I had to trust them. Like, it's really hard to find good co-founders if you're not technical. And I knew I didn't want to outsource it. So once I was like, okay, I'm actually gonna build this as a company, because in the beginning I thought this could be like passive income and like a project for me. I had no idea what it would entail. But once I realized like, oh no, this is gonna be a company, I knew I wanted them in-house. Like, I didn't want to just find like a development agency and like outsource it. And so I think that's just really hard. Like, I do think it's easier to find manufacturers and things like that than it is to find really good co-founders and to bring it to life. I could be totally wrong. I've never had to deal with anything physical, so maybe I'm totally wrong. But like I think that's the main reason. Because even if that's not the case, at least that's the idea that some people have, is that it's harder to find people to build something than it is to bring a product to life. So yeah, I think tech is not glamorous. Like, it's so much cooler to be like, oh, look at my drink, this cute drink and the cute branding. And like, a lot of creators love branding and the way something's going to look. It's hard to have good branding with a tech company because like there's nothing physical to show. And I'll even see like a lot of my friends that I follow that maybe do events, they're looking for sponsors for events, and they're always looking for something to fill like the goodie bags of the events that they're doing. And I'll always email them and I'm like, we're not a physical product, so I can't give you like a physical thing, but like we can give maybe a couple free months or something like that, so that we can be more involved with people that are working a lot with like CPG brands. So we kind of try to think of our marketing, like I am really inspired by CPG brands in the way that they market and the way that they run influencer campaigns and everything like that. And I always try to think like, how can I do it at Rella? Because it's more fun and it's more glamorous to run a consumer product than it is to run a tech company.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, maybe you have to add some flyers into the goodie bags, but that's obviously not so fancy. Are there any specific like creator or celebrity founder brands that inspire you?
Yeah, I really love everything Grace Beverly does. I think it's crazy that she is the founder of like multiple companies, because I'm like, how do you do that? But she's also someone that, posts business content, but it's in a very like relatable and approachable way. And it's very thoughtful, everything that she's posting, while also building a community. So I think that, and everything that she's built has come from like a pain point she has faced herself, which I really appreciate. Or I would say she's like definitely an inspiration. I also love what Marianna Hewitt and Lauren Ireland have done with Summer Fridays, because that's a brand that also lives on its own. Like, yeah, you might know that they're the founders and they do a great job creating content for it, but like you can tell they really care about their products, and their products are really good. And they have fun with like the influencer campaigns that they do and everything like that. So I would say Marianna Hewitt and Lauren Ireland, and then Grace Beverly are definitely like top inspirations for me.
Yeah, we know Grace Beverly and the team very well, obviously. So what is one skill that you learned from being a full-time content creator that you think was most useful in co-founding a tech company?
Yeah, I think the building community aspect of it, because again, it's easier to build community, I think, around a physical product, because a lot of tech companies, especially in the space we're in, where we're a productivity tool, we're going to help you save time, you can help run your business on it. It's hard to make that something that people advocate for. I don't know, you're just kind of like, okay, well, I'm using it just to run my business, but it's just an app that I use. It's not, my favorite lip balm or my favorite. It's harder, I think, to build community around a tech product. But I think because of my content creation background, I have done a good job at that and really listening to our customers, because just like as a creator, I have to listen to my audience and like always reading comments and everything like that. I'm doing the same with Rella. So I think treating us less as like an old school tech software company and always trying to come up with like new ways to build our community and market ourselves has helped being a creator.
Yeah, and I think that also, like, to your point, listening to your like community, like when you're a content creator and you publish a video, you're always going to look at the comments and see what they say. And the next video, you're going to integrate like their feedback. And like, to your credit, like the pivots that you had to go through, like we talked a little bit about it, but you probably have to go through 10 pivots. And that is probably like a skill you learned from actually being a content creator and listening to your audience. So what's next for Rella? What are you most excited about?
Yeah, I mean, we're excited to continue to build Rella. We have a lot of new automation and AI features in the works. So we do have Ella, which is our AI program in Rella, which is great for like content ideation, video scripts, understanding your voice, giving you your AI insights for your analytics. And it like understands your voice better than I think any AI tool, because we pull from your content on social media from the platforms you've connected and like a persona that you can fill out. But we're just moving forward with more things that are going to really act as like a team. So things that are going on in the background when you're not even on Rella, more automations, more like project management workflows that we're setting up so that you can use us for more than just, social media content. You can also like internally with your team use us more for project management, and then building just more like AI features within Rella, which we're really excited about, and improving Ella.
Yeah, I love that you actually gave it a person, like, and it's really resonating still with the name, right? Rella and then Ella, like your kind of personal assistant. So yeah, I think it's always best if there's a personal feeling towards an AI instead of it just being called ChatGPT or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're really excited. We've been told that our AI is like people always mention like our AI is really great compared to the other ones that are out there. So we love hearing that.
Yeah. Why do you think that's the case? Why do you think your AI is better than others?
Because a lot of the other AI tools have to learn your voice by you constantly talking to it, versus because we plug into your social media platforms, we already have all of your previous content. So we already know, like Ella already knows all of the topics that you post about, the caption style that you write, the hashtags you use, and it can also perform what does well and what doesn't. So like if there are patterns with content that does well, it's going to recommend more of those similar types of content that maybe you as a creator just aren't, or as a social media manager just aren't like really paying attention to. And then we also have you fill out a persona. So that is any like do's and don'ts. So like if you don't want to, sound too salesy, or if you don't want to use emojis or whatever it is, so there's actually like criterias of what are you trying to evoke? What are you trying to do with your social media? What topics do you want to touch on? What are off limits? What's on limits? And kind of compiling that with your platforms that are connected. It pretty much understands your voice from the jump, versus, my ChatGPT knows me really well now, but it's because I've spent so much time on it. And so this is just kind of like there's not really that like learning curve when it comes to Ella.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting because like also whenever you like onboard on a new tool, you often have to start from scratch. And
Right.
with Ella or with Rella, like you actually are not starting from scratch because it's going to analyze all the previous content and then come up with a strategy based on what works and what doesn't work. So I really love that about what you're building. Maybe the final question on my end. So what is the number one advice that you have for other content creators that have been thinking about launching their own companies?
Yeah, I mean, I would say one, you have to just go for it. So I am someone that I'm very impulsive. I'm not doing this 30-page business plan before I start something. Like, I'm kind of just doing research and getting started right away. So I encourage anyone that wants to start a business, start doing research, start talking to people, get the ball rolling, because if you are too much in your head thinking about it, you're never going to do it. You're going to find a million reasons why it's not going to work, why it's not a good time, why, maybe you should do something else. And I'm not saying to go in blind, like definitely do research, but get the ball moving and like tell yourself you're going to start this and start working at it and start talking to the right people and start getting feedback from other people that might share that same problem and building it. And I think that that's like the best way to do it, because too many people hold themselves back because of all of these like worries that they have, or what if it doesn't work? What if it, and it's like that's always going to be there. Like even today with Rella, like what if it doesn't work? But like I have to keep going. I think any entrepreneur or someone that wants to be an entrepreneur, you have to just put like one foot in front of the other. I think consistency is one of the like biggest qualities in entrepreneurship, because there's going to be many moments when things are going to go wrong. It's going to look like you're not going to make it, and you just have to be consistent and keep going, because if you give up over the first like hurdle, then you're in for a long road.
Yeah, and I think that especially because you have been a content creator for 15 years, you know how it is to be patient, and that you were celebrating your first 100 subscribers, and you know how long that took. And the problem I think nowadays with a lot of content creators is sometimes they gain 1 million followers from one video. The journey that took you 10 years, sometimes for them it takes them 3 months. So they don't have the patience to go into product development for 2 to 3 years and go through all those loops.
Yeah, even with my new content, like I'm sure some people are like, oh my gosh, this content's not doing well. Why is she still doing it? And I'm like, well, it will eventually. Like, I'm going to keep doing it because I know that it will do well. Obviously, I'm going to continue to try new strategies and adapt it. But I've been in this game long enough that I know that it's not an instant success. And I'm going to keep going until I am burnt out, or not even burnt out, but until I don't want to do it anymore, which I hope never comes. But, that's kind of my thought process.
Perfect. Well, to end, where can people find you?
Yeah, they can find me at Natalie Barbu on Instagram or TikTok, on YouTube as well. My podcast is Just Grow With It. So you can find that on YouTube or Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And then Rella is getrella.com or Rella Social. But we can give a coupon code for your audience if that works. If anyone wants to try Rella, you can get 30% off. So if you use the code, is Hot Start a good one?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, Hot Start. You can get 30% off annual plans with 3 months.
I love that. Well, Natalie, it was a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Hot Start VC podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe and leave a rating or review. It really helps us grow. You can also subscribe to our newsletter at hotstart.vc for more breakdowns on how celebrities and creators build billion-dollar brands. Thanks again for tuning in, and we will see you in the next episode.